To set up for the poison dart frog game, you put a predator in front of each side of the tree. Every player should have an ant card on the forest floor, and then each player should choose a frog and make sure that you have the correct frogs stuck onto your spinner, and so that each player can identify what number they get when you spin. And you might be able to work more than one frog onto the spinner. If you have like 5 players or 6, you might be able to have 2 players on a quadrant. I think that might work. It'll be a little bit tight getting that many players around the tree, that many kids or circled around the tree, but I think it would work with the frogs on there. So you might be able to stick more than one. But in an ordinary game, you'd have up to 4 players. So you get your 1 frog per quadrant. And then the frogs start at the top of the tree. So at the beginning of the game, we're going to pretend that the frogs are not poisonous. Now in reality, they would have been gaining poison since they were tadpole. They don't suddenly become poisonous. But in our game, we're going to emphasize the fact that the poison comes from the ants. So our first task is to get down and eat ants so that we can become poisonous. Now this is important because if you're not poisonous, you have to watch out for all the predators. Any of them can get you. Once you become poisonous, you only have to watch out for the brown snake. This is the one that is immune to dart frog poison. So this predator can get you at any time in the game, even if you are poisonous. So the frog is going to hop down. It'll take at least 2 spins to get down here. Now, because it's not poisonous, you can't sit on the forest floor. So if this frog, who's on the first ledge, spins a 1, you can't go like that because you'd have to sit there for the next turn and the predator's going to get you. So if you spin a 1, you can either hop back up like that, or he could just pass. Passing is always an option. If you don't want to move, you can stay put. If you decide to move, you have to use all your hops. So let's say that this frog gets a 3. It's going to go 1, pick up the ant card, 2, 3. Or he could go 1, 2, 3. You can hop back up the same side, or you can go up this side. You can go up or down either side. What you can't do is cross. You can't hop back and forth. So imagine the track is like a big long oval, and you can go clockwise or counterclockwise in the oval, but you can't go across. So let's say this frog goes 1, 2, 3, grabs his ants. Now the frog is poisonous, so only has to watch out for this snake. Now at the end of every move, the predators move to the next quadrant. So at the end of this move, so it goes over here, like that. So the next task is for the frog to lay eggs. We'll pretend it's the female frog for a little while. And so it's going to try to hop down. Now, if this frog gets a 2, this is a problem. Even though it's poisonous, this is going to be a problem because it's the brown snake. So it can't get a 2. So if, let's say it gets a 3 or 4, the frog's going to hop down. 1, 2, lay eggs, tuck your eggs under a leaf. 3, 4, and hop back up. Okay, and then at the end of the turn, you're all going to rotate like that. So now we have the tarantula. So if it got a 2, that would be okay. It could sit on the forest floor for a minute because it's poisonous. So the next thing a frog wants to do is get back down and land on the floor, and we'll switch the eggs out for tadpoles. Now you have already decided how many tadpoles to play. 1 tadpole is going to be a shorter game. 3 will be a longer game. I don't recommend any more than 3. So I'm just going to have 2 tadpoles ready here. Let's say that this frog gets a 2, lands on the forest floor. It's okay, this guy's there. Swap that out, put the tadpoles under, pick up the card. And then on the next turn, now you have to be mindful. This frog needs to look at what predator is coming next. It's the bird, so it'll be okay. At the end of the turn, they all scoot around. The brown snakes be back there. So it'll be alright, the bird is there, but if it was the brown snake coming in, then he'd get caught and he'd have to start over. I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's say in the previous turn the frog had, say, gotten a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just bounced down and then swapped these out and then ended up here. It would now have to go back down to the floor. But on this turn my frog was already on the floor, so I'm just going to go ahead with my next move, and that is to take a tadpole, just one at a time, up the tree, because the father frog, usually the father, sometimes the mother in some species, but usually the father frog takes one at a time, and then let's say it gets a 2, 1, 2. Now, if you have trouble with the tadpoles staying on, you can use a paper clip or a binder clip or something, or a rubber band to keep it on, but in my class they just did that and they were fine. They didn't really care to have it clipped on. It worked okay. So then the goal is to get all the way up here and put the tadpole into the bromeliad at the top, and then if you're playing more than one tadpole, then the frog's going to have to go back down, hop, 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 pick up the other tadpole up to the top, and then as soon as the frog gets all the tadpoles into the bromeliad, that frog is done. Now you can make it more or less competitive if you want to have the game end as soon as one frog completes all the tadpoles, so that player's the winner and the game's over, or you can let the game go on and finish the game when all the frogs have completed all their tadpoles. Now let me go back and say what happens if the frog is sitting, let's say the predators are like this, okay, and the person with this frog hasn't noticed that the brown snake is coming next. So at the end of the turn, the predators rotate, and there sits the frog and the brown snake is there. So what happens? Well, if you want to lengthen the game or make it more difficult for older players, you could have the frog be required to go back to the beginning, put the ant card out and start all over again, or you can simply have the frog, will just leave at whatever stage it was, even if it was on tadpole stage, you can leave it there, and you can require that the frog just goes back to the top, loses a turn, and then picks up right where he left off at tadpole stage. So it's up to you whether you want to require the frog to start completely over or just to go back up the tree and miss a turn, whichever works out the best in your situation.